This is the Storypunks podcast, a show where we talk about all the punks. So steampunk, dieselpunk, cyberpunk, and all the other punks. I'm your host, Cindy Gregg. This is episode 17, and I'm honored to report we have the Airship Ambassador. Kevin Steil is interviewing on the show today. Kevin is a steampunk consultant, so he's worked on some really cool projects, probably some that you've heard of. And he's also a wonderful curator and interviewer, and he runs airshipambassador.com. So this is a site many in the community have relied on over the years, and he's a really fun personality and persona. So this will be a two-parter. In part one, this week's episode, we will be going over Kevin's website, his curation, his experience with the Airship Ambassador persona, and costuming, how he went about creating a custom costume. He worked with a designer, and he talks about that experience and his consultancy on shows like Steampunk'd. And then in next week's episode, we're going to talk about the Steampunk Museum that he helps curate. And we'll also be talking about a worldwide blogathon event called Steampunk Hands Around the World. So lots of cool stuff in this interview. And for personal update, this week I have been preparing for an upcoming adventure. So I have been writing two different series. I have my Steampunk Regency Valkyrie, so it's Norse mythology, book called Peacock Levine and the Ethereal Fates of Naught. And I say book, but it's a series of books. And then I've also been working on a deco-punk thriller. So this is called The Salt Sheen Paradox, and it is about conspiracies that center around a network of salt flat time and space portals around the planet. So it is set in the 1920s. It's anchored there, but it is a time travel series, and it is it takes me through a bunch of different locations throughout the world. And this is something I've been writing for a lot of years, but I have been able to now branch out into the type of day job work that allows me to travel a little bit. And so I'm going to take that opportunity while I can. And when things line up, it's just been such a psychic push to try to get out the door, basically. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity. On the other hand, it would have been so easy to not go. And I know that because I haven't been going in the past when maybe I could have, but at the time I thought I couldn't have. And so I just want to share this, where I've been mentally as I'm trying to prepare to go and as I've finally taken steps to go. And the number one thing that I've observed is that you are never ready, and it's never the perfect time to add in this type of writing research, or maybe you're working on a different type of art. For me, I have so many reasons why I can go, and I can feel those, and I can, totally see those and accept those and appreciate those now that I have made the decision to go, and now that I've booked things and I'm going, it's happening, this is going down. But before making those decisions, I had so many reasons why I couldn't do that, why that couldn't be part of my life. And don't know that the reasons matter that much, but it can be kind of fun to read what other people are dealing with. So if you would like more detail on this, I have done a post about it on theproductiveauthor.com, and feel free to go there. That's where I share some of my mindset type essays about writing, and feel free to go check that out. But I wanted to mention it just generally here because I know we have a lot of creators and all of us are trying to work on our lifestyle and to try to become the type of writers we want to become. I want to be someone who can research things in that very visceral, in-person way. And it's worth the sacrifices and the discomfort that are coming because basically I have constraints of budget, I have constraints of time, I have constraints of, I don't speak the language of the place that I'm going to. And again, I get into more details about those things in that blog post. But there's a point where you make the decision and you make it work or you don't. And everyone has to make that call for this specific time. It's not the right answer for all times to take on these types of adventures. But I'm really grateful to be able to go. And I also wanted to mention that because I will be traveling for an extended period of time, I will be taking a month off from this podcast. And it's going to be in May. So we still have quite a few episodes coming down the line. But instead of doing, staggering the episodes, I went through a lot of scenarios in my mind, and I just decided I will take off the month of May, and then I will be back right after that. So it's just going to be too hard to try to make sure I have the right kind of internet connection speeds and stuff. So I am not going to try to post from the field, the research field. And after I get back, I'll share more about, where I'm going and stuff. And I'm looking forward to hopefully connecting with Steampunks in that area of the world. So expanding the circle of this conversation on this podcast. And believe it or not, that brings us right back to our interview today. I couldn't be talking with a better person because he is so focused on building community and building it throughout the world. So without further ado, here is part 1 of the interview with the Airship Ambassador, Kevin Steil. Kevin Steil is the creator and editor of Airship Ambassador, the steampunk news and information resource website and interview blog. He is also the curator of the Steampunk Museum and creator of the annual month-long global blogathon, Steampunk Hands Around the World. It's just awesome. Kevin has been a guest and speaker at several steampunk conventions, acted as a media and event steampunk consultant, and participated in Vintage Tomorrows, a book by futurist Brian David Johnson and cultural historian James Carrott, as well as the documentary film by Bird McDonald. Kevin, I understand you have some pretty amazing things, some mementos there in your wonderful office. Do you mind sharing some of those as we get started today? And I understand there's even something you use daily, which is so cool. So welcome on the show. Will you share that with us?
Sure. Well, thanks. I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to it. This will be a lot of fun. So one of the things that I do use pretty much every day is this teapot it's from the 1880s. I picked it up in an antique store when I was totally not looking for it. I was looking for something else, and there it was. And it's become my favorite teapot of a collection, really. And but I pretty much use it every day for my tea, and it's a fun way to start every day and have that sort of steampunkish reminder and I don't know, bring the 1880s and the 1800s right into my life every single day. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness. Can we get one more look at it? Because that thing looked awesome.
It's true. I have never seen anything quite like it.
So
especially
cool.
With the legs on the bottom, and it's really dark. It's actually silver, but very tarnished. And I hesitate to clean it because I'm not quite sure how it might turn out.
Right. And does it have an emblem on it? That's what I was curious about.
Let's see if we can get a good shot of it.
Oh, that looks good. Yeah. Oh, look at that detail.
Yeah. So, yeah, totally one of my favorite. And then the little legs on it. And, I've just never seen anything quite like this design. And even when I went on the internet to look up this style to find more pieces in the set, I found one picture, and that was it. It was, I guess, somebody else, some other collector had one, but I haven't been able to find any more in the set except this and a smaller pot, which is probably actually the teapot. I think this is technically the coffee pot. But
how do you warm that up? Is it just a matter of warming up the water somewhere else, or do you put it on the stove?
I have an actual tea kettle that I heat up the water in the morning, and then so then I heat up the pot. Swish it around, make sure that the pot is hot, and then pour that out, put in the loose leaf tea, and then pour in the actual hot water for the tea itself.
Oh, so cool. Well, that totally sets the mood, and I'm just so excited to have you on the show, like I already said many times.
Thank you. But, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Now, Kevin is a master interviewer, and if you go to airshipambassador.com, you'll see that he does really in-depth interviews. He's absolutely someone who understands the breadth of steampunk, and also he dives into the depth of it with those interviews and so many other projects. So I definitely need to ask this first question that I ask on all my shows.
Okay.
And it is, today we're talking about steampunk. So what is your definition? What's your take on the term?
So my guidelines for steampunk and what it is for me personally is that it's a story and aesthetic that is set in, or at least evocative of, the 1800s, where there's anachronistic technology and with the prevailing scientific and spiritual, supernatural notions and theories of the time. So, and it would be a lot of high-tech ideas, but built from low materials. So it'd be something like we have our computers, but built out of brass and wood. So something like the Babbage engine, but still providing all the high-end technology results that we have today. So those are my guidelines, and what I use, I guess, when I filter through things and look through things and what do I want to share with other people.
Wow. Okay. That's one of the best definitions I've heard as far as detail and just specifics. So very cool. Now I'm interested about the phrase you used, low end materials, and you already explained it in your definition, but is it also that way because then it's accessible to the masses, those kind of things? Or, I mean, is that part of the vibe for you?
Part of it, I suppose, but it was also the materials of the time.
Yeah.
It's what the 1800s was built on. So it could be that cast iron or large forges, but large machinery. It wasn't specifically silicon chips.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, and it would be something that's fancy and elegant, that where the artistic appeal is as important as what it does. So even a steampunk computer would be a beautiful piece of artwork as well as a functional computer.
So cool.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So now, how did you get into steampunk in the first place? I've heard some really interesting stories about how people connect with this subculture. What was it like for you?
So for me, it started way back. I was a kid, and I saw Disney's 1954 film 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Not in the theater. It was on TV. It was like 20 years later, I guess. And so fell in love with that whole look and feel of the Nautilus in particular. That, in fact, the Nautilus became my first vehicle love. Other people have their cars and such, and I love Star Trek and Doctor Who and the TARDIS, but the Nautilus was my first vehicle love, and so I've got...
That's pretty unique. Like, you don't hear that a lot.
Yeah, and I love that look, and so I've got models and prints all over the house of the Nautilus because it was so cool. And then even inside, I like that whole Victorian style, that aesthetic, the look, like in the Grand Salon with all the red velvet and the heavy furniture kind of look, and
like your jacket.
I like my jacket, right? And so that's really where it started. That I love that movie, I love that look, and I thought that's what I want to have. That when I grow up and I have my house and my furniture, that's what I want, and I'm close. That I've got a lot of antique furniture and antique things like the teapot and sofa and chairs and just all of that. But so 20,000 Leagues kicked it off, and then a neighbor actually got me this book.
Oh my goodness!
In the 70s, because she thought, "Oh, you really like it so much. Here's a book, and you can read it," which was nice because I think it was in third grade maybe, and I had checked out the book from our school library for a month and read the whole thing. But then got that copy, which I've held on to all these years. And now I've got like 4 or 5 other copies from the annotated or a picture book and just all of that because I love that story. So that's where it started for me, was 20,000 Leagues. So skipping ahead to the 90s with cyberpunk, and I was really into that and reading William Gibson and Neuromancer and all of that, and thought, these are great stories, and it would be even better if it were set in the 1800s and it was all Victorian.
Wow. Well, you were thinking right along the same lines as people that wrote the first steampunk then.
Right. Exactly. And apparently along the same lines as William Gibson, because I think 6 months later, after I was thinking this, that difference engine came out.
Oh,
I was like,
so
this
cool.
is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. And
It's really cool.
it was very cool. And so that started, and I think, and by then steampunk actually had a name that had already been coined. And so then it was a matter of just kind of checking the internet periodically for steampunk and see what would come up. And for a long time, there was a lot of nothing or very little out there. And then mid 2000s, things really picked up. That there was a convention, and then Jake Von Slatt and Datamancer came out with their products and their pictures, and then it just really took off from there. And so at that point, it was fun to start following it and see what was building and what was happening and how people were being excited. And ultimately, that led to a convention here in the Seattle area that I went to, SteamCon, in 2009.
Oh, wow.
And for me, it really took off after that. I got involved pretty heavily very soon after that.
That's so interesting to hear you answer it in this way, because it sounds like it was so formative. It was forming this whole time, and then it came to a...
And it's interesting, too, when I talk to other people and get feedback that so many people realize that they've been steampunk without realizing it, or that they like steampunk before they formally got into it, that they like the antiques, or they like the look, they like this or that. And finally it all came together. I was like, yes, oh my gosh, steampunk. That perfectly describes what I like and what I want to do.
It's cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah. So it was definitely a progression for me. And I think actually for a lot of other people in their own experiences, how it all comes together.
And I'm biased because I'm a writer. So I love that it started with a story for you.
It did. And I guess as I look back, as I learn more and talk more, that realizing how there have been steampunk books the whole 20th century. It didn't have the steampunk name, but it's a steampunk book. And Dr. Mike Pershawn goes into his thesis. He did his doctoral thesis on steampunk, and goes into kind of that progression through, I guess, multiple decades of the 20th century, and what the books were and who wrote them and how it kind of would fit in, or totally fits in, with what we think of as steampunk today in general. So it's been out there quite a while. I mean, it was very slow because there's lots of other science fiction going on.
Right.
But it's kind of always been there. And then, of course, in the last 10 years or so, it's really taken off, and lots of books.
Oh, so cool. Well, now just going back to that book really quickly, it looks like it's an oversized book. Does that have pictures in it?
It has pictures in the margins, and they're really small. They're just black and white line drawings, usually calling out something that's on that page, like, they refer to a fish or a shark or something under the sea, and so there'll be something in the margin about that item.
Okay, that's cool.
It is pretty cool. It's like bigger footnotes. Yeah,
and like picture footnotes. That's so cool.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, the next thing I want to talk about is how you went about creating the airshipambassador.com. And sorry, it's airshipambassador.com. So what are the lessons learned along the way as you put that together? You put that together almost 10 years ago.
Almost 10 years ago, yeah. It was right after a convention, and my first thought that I'd been kicking around for a while was, I've got something to say, and I want to say it. And so I'll start a blog. And I guess overall, I have no plan. Actually, that I had no plan when I started, and I still kind of don't have a plan. It's just
you're pantsing it.
Yeah, pretty much. That there's always some new shiny idea. It's like, oh, that sounds cool. I'm going to do that too, and add it on to whatever I'm already doing. But when I started, no plan beyond, I want to say something. And so I started out with kind of a series of essays, and then I thought, okay, I need more than this if I'm going to keep going, and looked around to see what other people were doing, and realized that interviewing other people could be my niche. That's where I would feel comfortable, and nobody else was really doing it. So it fit at the time, and has since worked out really well because I thoroughly enjoy it. But started with the interview blog, and then realized there's so much information that I was always searching for that I wanted to create a web page, at least for me, that I could go find these things again without having to search Google over and over and over. And that actually led then to the airshipambassador.com website, which in the early days, it was a bit of news, and it was highlighting groups that were forming around the world, and artwork and music and kind of every aspect of the steampunk community, so that people could come to one place and find a link and go to something and not have to search endlessly on the internet like I had. But
which is so valuable because, sorry to interrupt you, but it's so valuable because it's weird what you don't hear about. And I think a lot of people listening that are steampunks, they hear about things all the time and they're wondering, why didn't I hear about this?
Exactly. So, and even now, some steampunks haven't heard of Airship Ambassador. And then even the ones that are following me, there's always something new. And so today, Airship Ambassador, the website, is all about the news and information. So there's a daily news feed on social media where I try to relay anything that's going on in the world and in our community, as well as then highlighting different things in our community, like the books and the music, pictures, artwork, that kind of thing. And so there's just a rotating list of all of that. So I always do a lot of research ahead of time about what can I share with the community that would be of interest.
It's so impressive, like to see that log every day. I'm just super impressed.
There's a lot still going on. Sometimes it's a little harder to get actual news items, like what's happening in the rest of the world, but there's still a lot going on. So it's been a lot of fun to share that. Part of it for me is that I'm a total information junkie, that I just want to know everything. And then at the same time, I want to share it back out so that everybody else knows about it too. And so doing the news feed is a lot of fun for me that I learn, but I get to share it with everybody else. And it's nice to see that other people enjoy that too, because the follower count keeps going up, which I'm very grateful for. And I'm glad that other people are getting something out of it too.
Oh, yeah.
Their experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's obvious you're very connected to the community, and it just leads me to ask, what does the steampunk community mean to you? Because it's that love of this topic, but also the community has sustained you for all these years. It has, and
I thoroughly enjoy the community and I guess sharing. Oh, how do I put it? I guess I've met some really great people around the world because of steampunk that I would not have probably met otherwise. That we have this common interest, and then find other interests to share and develop a friendship, regardless if they're here in the Seattle area or if they're in another country halfway around the world, which is actually pretty common. So it's been great fun for me to meet these people, or at least meet virtually and correspond and develop that friendship, and I guess see the differences in how steampunk can be expressed, as well as all the similarities and the fun that people are having, and truly wishing I could go visit everybody, go to all the conventions around the world and visit all the groups and have a great time.
In your airship.
In my airship, yeah.
I mean, maybe someday that will be, what you do.
Well, someday it'd be nice. It'd be really fun. There's new real airships that are happening from a couple different companies. And I would love to go for a ride on any one of them and do a little video coverage and like, hey, here's the Airship Ambassador and we're flying on this new airship.
Oh, totally. That needs to happen.
It would be great fun. I think it'd be pretty cool. And being able to share that out.
Would you be scared at all?
No. Well,
it'd be too cool. You just like override any fear.
I think I would be so caught up in the moment of just being there and being on the ship and flying in a real airship again. Just a plane or a balloon. And I think it would just be such an amazing experience. I don't think I would be nervous or even think about implications until after I got back on the ground and it was over. Okay, I think it would be pretty awesome. It would be so awesome.
I saw something recently. We're, getting off topic here, but there was this guy, and he has like some kind of bike, a flying bike, but then he allows you to fly with the geese, and you get like a close. Have you seen this?
I have.
Yeah. I picture you on that.
That would be pretty funny. Yeah.
Flying up there with an airship, but yeah.
As long as I'm dressed for the occasion here. And
yeah, that's what I just pictured. So that'd be awesome. Okay, so very few people can say they are a steampunk consultant. So even though we're talking about these things like to do someday, you're doing some amazing things right now. And,
right.
I would love to know about your experiences. One of them is consulting for the TV show Steampunk'd, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And what have you learned from this? Where has this taken you?
Oh, so again, it's sort of, there was no plan. I didn't actually go find any of these people. That everybody has come to me. And a lot of it is because I just do what I do, that I put out information and this is what I do. And I think people pick up on that as like, oh, well, you're putting out all the information and articles and such, so maybe you know about this. So I get emails all the time from people looking for more information. Either it's just, where can I go look up this or that item, or where's a convention? I had somebody just recently ask what local events are going on around the world, because he's going to be traveling this summer and wants to visit different cities and wanted to kind of shape his trip around steampunk events. And like, well, let's check the events page and let's see what's out there now. And depending on what cities you're going to, let's look at those groups on Facebook or other social media, and that'll help. But
okay, so we need to update your bio to travel agent.
Travel agent, right? Yeah. Here's where you need to go, and here's how you get there.
That would be awesome.
That would be fun. I also get emails from people who are doing corporate events and they want to do a steampunk theme. And like, well, what do I need to do it? And like, well, you don't have to go full blown steampunk. You just do aspects. And a friend of mine was a management consultant, and he was doing some workshop and wanted to do a steampunk theme. And so we kind of talked through about, here's some ideas, here's how it could work within your workshop, and what people can do with the theme as part of the exercises that go on. And that was kind of fun. And ultimately, kind of all of this comes together where I guess it sort of led up to Steampunk'd, the TV show. And that was, they contacted me kind of out of the blue. And it was because of the body of work that I had done for several years at that point, that I was involved and doing the blog, doing the website, speaking at conventions, being involved with other people. People would refer me, along the way. So a friend of a friend of a friend. And the production company, Pink Sneakers, when they were doing their initial research, kept seeing my name pop up, apparently. And so they reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing this show and this is what we need. And let's talk. And then they eventually decided, yeah, let's hire you and be a consultant for the show. So I was a consultant during the pre-production part of it. So before any filming happened, we talked for at least 6 months, maybe a little bit more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
About what's the format of the show? What are we going to do? What do the teams look like? What are the awards? How do we judge who wins? And then how do we steampunk something as the challenge? Is it a big challenge and a little challenge, or just one challenge? And so we kicked it around for months. And then there was all the focus groups and chats and stuff. And that part was great fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Would love to do it again. So if other media people are watching, call me. That it was a really good experience. And that I learned the entertainment industry doesn't work at all like corporate America or corporate business, that it's just a different timeline, that things just take longer and scheduling takes longer. And apparently the Steampunk'd TV show went really fast, that it was a year-ish, kind of from conception to being on screen. And that, I guess, is apparently almost unheard of. That most things take a year or two of just development and getting the funding and all of that, and then do the filming like way at the end of the process. And so I moved along pretty quickly, but it was good fun. And through that show, meeting the cast and some of the crew, that great people that we still talk today, really great friendships have come out of it. And overall, it was an amazing experience. So I would definitely do any kind of media consulting again, because it was so much fun. Really
so cool. So cool. Well, it sounds like they found the perfect person for it. And are you allowed to comment on, like, how did you like the show? Were you happy with how it turned out? Any comments?
Gosh,
it might be dangerous territory.
Well, it was interesting in each show, I guess, to see how everything that we talked about pre-production turned out in the actual show. And I'm sure there were tweaks made along the way once filming actually started, but just there was some amazing creativity from everybody that was on the show, and that everybody was there, I think, to have fun, be creative, and create something really amazing. And it was always interesting every week to see how did that get expressed. And then sad to see people leave, but it's the nature of the competition show. That's how it works. And
right.
But just amazing things as like, I think after every episode, it's like, ooh, I really like this thing. And like, I might just reach out to that person and see what I could get. And if it was decoration or accessories or something. And it was really cool to see it. And then it's been great fun since then to see what they've all gone on to do.
Okay. Yes.
So some are doing props and accessories and decorations and all of that. And I see them at conventions and we'll do interviews there. But we also just talk on Facebook and phone calls. We'll pick up and catch up what everybody's doing. And that's really cool that they're fun, creative people, and they're doing some amazing work. And I eagerly look forward to hearing what comes next for all of them, even from this point forward. That I think several of them have projects brewing that they're not ready to share yet because they're still formulating them, and others are continuing with what they're doing and I guess building up their portfolio and deciding where do they want to go next and what do they want to do. But it's been an amazing experience, great friendships.
Oh, so cool. Well, now we talked a little bit about this amazing jacket you have on.
Yep.
It's not your official Airship Ambassador jacket, right?
This is not. No, this is one of my newest ones. I suppose I literally picked up off the rack.
But it's so cool because that's something you can wear out and about, and you can dress it more steampunk or just keep it that way. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, but my official Airship Ambassador coat, it's a big black coat with purple trim and a whole lot of kind of gold embroidered trim on it.
Regalia, yeah.
Regalia, it is
epaulets and
the epaulets. It is a big, heavy coat. And when I take it somewhere, I always put it in my carry-on luggage because I can't afford to lose it.
Right, totally.
So it was custom made by a friend of mine. And she had done all the outfits for her daughter's drama club, and then went on to do a bunch of Ren Fair type outfits for she and her husband for a bunch of events. And I was totally impressed with all of that work. And so we talked about what did I like and maybe what I wanted. And so she sent me a picture, said, I'll do up a drawing and I'll send it to you and see what you think. I was like, okay, sure. And so the drawing arrived in the mail, and I'm looking at the envelope and like, okay, I'm sure it'll be good, but I don't want to get my hopes up. It'll be fine. And so I opened it up and it was amazing. It looked so much like the final coat, and it just about took my breath away. And I thought, okay. And I screamed like a little kid, really, like, oh my God. It was so amazing.
Well, and it's so cool because you worked with her, I'm sure, described everything you wanted.
Yep. We talked together like every 2 or 3 weeks and did fittings and looked at trims and stuff she was going to put on and go through all the ideas. And it was pretty cool. And then when I saw the final coat before one of the SteamCon conventions, it did literally take my breath away. I was just speechless. She had it all on display and on a mannequin. It was really cool. It was.
Yeah, there's something breathtaking about that experience, conceptualizing something and then having it become tangible.
Exactly. Yeah. And then
magical. Yeah.
And that the final coat was so close to her drawing, which certainly made me feel really comfortable that it was nice to see this is exactly what was going to happen out of it. It was great.
And to know it's one of a kind and it's so iconic for you.
Exactly.
So cool.
Yeah. So whenever I do any official Airship Ambassador type things, I'll be wearing that coat.
Don't you just want to hear more from Kevin Steil? Don't you just want this interview to go on and on? Well, guess what? It does. Like I mentioned, This is a two-parter, so you can look forward to another episode with Kevin Steil next week. We will continue this same conversation and we get into some really cool projects that he's working on. They are focused on the world community and also some pretty unusual experiences for him personally, and we get a window into that. So please join us. And once again, please don't be shy about leaving a review on iTunes. It really helps me out, helps other people find the show. I love it. And also, if you enjoyed the merchandise that you saw on my dress form or some of the stuff on my shelf, the New Albion merchandise, that is from Paul Shapira. So be sure to look up his work. He's a very interesting musician. His work crosses many of the punk genres. And once again, this conversation with Kevin Steil is to be continued. So have a wonderful week until then.